Hello and welcome to today's Focus Weekly session, whereby we are going to discuss the important topics from the last week related to the geography, environment, and disaster management section. The topics for today are listed on the screen. For example, we are going to discuss the topics related to rare Eurasian otters, marine heat waves, and then new Ramsar sites recently which have been recognized in India, taking the total number to the 89, and then the Crocodile River. As you can see that almost every topic is mainly from the prelims perspective. This one topic, marine heat waves, which can come under two sections. One is the general studies paper 1 under the subsection of geography, that changing critical geographical features or geophysical phenomena. So there we can take the marine heat waves, or we can also take this topic in general studies paper 3 environment section, whereby we discuss about pollution conservation and disaster management. So there also these marine heat waves can come. So this one topic is relevant from prelims as well as the mains perspective. Other topics are mainly relevant as far as the prelims examination is concerned, right? So without wasting much time, let us begin our today's session. So the first topic which we have taken is in relation to the important Ramsar sites which have been announced. The Now Tamil Nadu has become the first state in terms of number of Ramsar sites. Okay, so the immediate context you can see on the screen, that it is that recently there 4 sites have been recognized as Ramsar site. But when it comes to the prelims examination, what are the important things which we need to cover under this section? So one, obviously, about facts about these sites, but the second thing is that we should have a broad overview about the Ramsar convention also. So those who do not know, Ramsar convention is basically an international convention which takes care about the wetlands of international importance. Okay, so first, if you have to see the news, that which are those 4 sites which have been recognized. These are the 4 sites which have been recognized. Okay, so two of the sites are in Tamil Nadu, one site is in Sikkim, and one site is in Jharkhand. For Sikkim, this is the first site. For Jharkhand, this is the first site, that is the first wetlands which have been recognized under the Ramsar convention. Okay, so we'll discuss about these in details just in few minutes. But we were talking that Ramsar convention, what do we understand by it? It is an international convention which takes care about the wetlands of international importance. Okay, so this was signed in 1971 in the Ramsar city of Iran, and hence it has the name the Ramsar Convention. Okay, so it recognizes the wetlands of international importance. Now, when we say wetlands of importance, what do we mean by importance? So the importance of wetlands is not just from the ecological perspective, it also has the social relevance. When we talk about the social relevance, the social importance of wetlands, here we talk about the indigenous people who are living in the close vicinity of that particular wetland. So indigenous people, what is their culture, the cultural importance of wetlands, is there any economic activity associated with it? So by this thing, you can understand that the Ramsar Convention is not only ecological in nature, it basically talks about the sustainable development of the wetlands. So when we talk about sustainable development of wetlands, we mean that its ecological parameters have to be conserved. On the same lines, the population which is immediately dependent on that wetland, we need to take care of that population also, because conservation efforts cannot go in alienation. Okay, so you need to take a symbiotic overview about the people as well as the ecological entity which are interacting. So it cannot be a closed system. It is an open system where the continuous interaction going on between the people living in the area as well as that ecological entity, that is the wetland. And from this discussion, an important concept emerges. This discussion leads to the concept of why views. So the core principle of the Ramsar Convention is basically based on the concept of wise use. So what do we mean by wise use? Ramsar Convention does not say that in order to preserve any wetland, you need to alienate it. You do not have to make any use of it and remain it and leave it alone. Okay, it's not the case. So there has to be a usage of wetland. There has to be economic use of wetland, there has to be social use of wetland. But the point is the views should be wise enough. Again, the thing is that it is related to what? It is related to sustainable development, right? Sustainability. Second important thing is that this Ramsar Convention takes the natural as well as human wetlands into account. So again, it is not like the case that it is only related to the natural wetlands. Human wetlands are also there. So examples of natural wetlands. Some of the examples of natural wetlands are like natural lakes, deltas, estuaries, marshlands, marsh, peat, bogs, fens, etc. So these are the example of natural wetlands. When we talk about the human wetlands, so here we can talk about the paddy fields, right? In India, this paddy fields cumulatively account for the largest area under wetlands. Okay, so paddy fields are the human wetlands. Human made lakes, human made reservoirs, they are the example of human wetlands. So Ramsar Convention recognizes both, that is natural as well as the human wetlands. This is another important point. Okay, and just a factual detail that 2nd February, the date of signing of this particular convention is recognized as the World Wetlands Day. Okay, in mains, UPSC has also asked the question related to the concept of wise use. Okay, so that is how sometimes UPSC do ask the questions in mains from the topics which we generally perceive as prelims oriented. So this topic, as I have discussed, is prelims oriented. But yes, when it comes to some fundamental principles, some core building foundational block of any particular convention, so there can be this. Similarly, if we talk about the Convention on Biological Diversity, so there is an important principle of access and benefit sharing. Okay, so now onwards, whenever you are preparing such convention for prelims, be aware about such foundational terms like wise use, access and benefit sharing. Okay, so because in mains there can be a question, so you need to be aware about what do we mean by such terminologies in a convention. Fine. Okay, so this was about the Ramsar Convention. Now going to these important areas which were in news, so we'll discuss about some key facts related to these particular sites. The first site which we are going to discuss is the Udhwa Lake. Now this Udhwa Lake lies in the state of Jharkhand, and this is the first Ramsar site in Jharkhand. Okay, it lies in the Gangetic Plains biogeographic zone. So there is a small channel which connects this particular lake to the river Ganga. Okay, so around 20-30 kilometer channel is there. So that is why it lies in the Gangetic Plains geographic zone. It is also recognized as an important bird area because of the presence of huge number of bird species. Some species are native, some species are also migratory in nature. And because of this migration, migratory species, you have a lot of bird species. For example, one, you have Nordman's greenshank, spotted greenshank. These, but among these species, the most important one when it comes to the prelims is the oriental white-backed vulture. Okay, why? Because this is critically endangered. A lot of other species are there. Fine, these are the important species which we have taken, and among these important species, the most important one is the oriental white-backed vulture. You can see the picture. This picture is of oriental white-backed vulture. So you can see the white back of this vulture. Important thing that this is critically endangered species of India. Okay, so there are several species in vultures. So few of those, all the species are not critically endangered. This one subspecies of vulture is critically endangered. Fine. So it is connected through a Ganga river through a Udhwa Nala at Farakka. So you can see the location also. Next site is the Khecheopalri Wetland. Now this Khecheopalri Wetland is located in the state of Sikkim, and this is also the first Ramsar site of Sikkim. Again, just the names, the factual details that there is a valley known by a name Damazong Valley. In prelims, either the question can be on the name of the wetland or The question can be on the name of valley because these are the places in news also. Just factual details, so you have to memorize them. So those who belong to Sikkim must be aware about these places. Those who are outside of the Sikkim, so obviously we have to memorize these things. The important thing is that when you look at this particular site, so there is a small lake. So the picture is of lake. Okay. For example, in the Udhwa Lake, the image was of the vulture because this was the most important point under this Ramsar site. When it comes to this particular wetland, so here you are having a lake. Now this is the most important thing because this lake is having a lot of sacred importance for Buddhists as well as for Hindus. Okay, and that is why this lake is known as wish fulfilling lake. Wish fulfilling lake, just the cultural relevance. Kanchenjunga Peak serves as the background of this particular lake. Okay. Now from here also, when we are seeing that this is a wish fulfilling lake, so here also we are talking about what? We are talking about the cultural importance of this wetland. Are you getting it? That's why initially we talked about that when it comes to the wetlands of international importance, by importance we do not mean only the important biodiversity, we also mean the importance in terms of culture, social, etc. Okay, so this is the thing. Moving to the next site, then we have Sakkarakottai Bird Sanctuary. This is in Tamil Nadu, and this lies in the peri-urban areas. Now, what do we mean by peri-urban areas? So you must have seen that in an urban city, in the close vicinity, in the outskirts of the urban city, there are areas which are not purely rural areas and which are not purely urban areas also. So in those areas, we have the society which we are having is mainly of urban mindset, but there you can have some presence of agricultural fields also. There are urban infrastructure, you have roads also, you have agricultural fields also, you have commercial complexes also, you have education system. The sewer and drainage system is not better, is not comparable to the main urban hub. Okay, but still they are there. So that particular area which has the characteristics of urban as well as the rural areas are known as peri-urban areas. Generally they are in the outskirts of this urban city. So this bird sanctuary lies in the peri-urban, this is a peri-urban wetland in Tamil Nadu, and it lies close to the Gulf of Mannar. Important fact. Second important fact, it also lies on the Central Asian Flyway. Now what do we mean by Central Asian Flyway? So there are migratory birds which migrate from the Central Asian region. They cover the countries of Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan. They enter into India, then they move towards Africa. So this route that is from Central Asia, passing through Pakistan, India, going to Africa, this route of migratory birds is known as Central Asian Flyway. Okay, so this particular bird sanctuary, which is now a Ramsar site also, lies on this route. Why this is very important? Because it has abundant babool trees. Now this can be a confusing one because if you know that it is lying in Tamil Nadu, so if you have not read about it and if you are not exactly aware about its exact location, so it might happen that you can think that babool trees were not the trees which you have in the rainy areas, and you might think that Tamil Nadu, the coastal Tamil Nadu, is a moist humid area. So how are you having babool trees over there? Because babool trees are the example of dry deciduous forests, right? So there you find babool. You can find the babool in the thorny forest in some portion, but mainly in dry deciduous forest. So how is it possible? Because it is lying somewhat in the rain shadow point. Okay, so that is why you have abundant babool trees over here, and these babool trees provide a nesting habitat for the nearly threatened spot-billed pelican. So here in this picture you can see this is an image of spot-billed pelican, and this is a unique feature of this Sakkarakottai bird sanctuary in Tamil Nadu. The last site which is recognized as Ramsar site recently is the Therthangal Bird Sanctuary. Again, this is also in Tamil Nadu, and this is a marshy lake in Tamil Nadu, right? So it also lies along the Central Asian Flyway. And when this wetland is concerned, the important species which are in this wetland are two, and both the species are important. One is the Egyptian vulture, see, endangered. Remember, we discussed that all the vulture species are not critically endangered. So few species are critically endangered, few species are endangered. Here you are having Egyptian vulture. That was white-backed vulture. This is Egyptian vulture. You are having it in India, and this is endangered as per the IUCN status. The next species is the Indian spotted eagle, which is vulnerable. So here you can see the vulture, that is Egyptian vulture. You can have a look at the image just to develop a pictographic memory. This is endangered, and here you are having a Indian spotted eagle. So that's about it. So these were the facts, important facts related to these four new Ramsar sites in India. Now, in totality, India has 89 Ramsar sites. Tamil Nadu is the leading state in terms of number of Ramsar sites. Okay. Next topic is in relation to Crocodile River. This topic is taken from Down to Earth, and the topic has come in the context of a very small river which we generally do not read while reading the rivers of India while doing the Indian map. The river is Vishwamitri River. Okay. So now because it has come in news, so we can try to memorize the name. The Vishwamitri River is in Gujarat, and it passes through an important city, Vadodara. Now we know that Vadodara is a textile hub. There you have industries, there you have a lot of commercial spaces, there you have a huge population also. So that means we can guess that this particular river, Vishwamitri River, will be a polluted one, right? But in this particular river, the studies are undergoing in order to calculate the number of crocodile species which are living in this river. So if you have to see the location of this river, so here you can see the map. Okay, so this is a section of Gujarat, and this particular section has been magnified, and here you have the Vadodara city, and the river which is coming like this river is the Vishwamitri River. Okay, and then it drains into Gulf of Khambat. Okay, so Vishwamitri River originates in the hills of Pavagadh, important hills, Gujarat, in Panchamahal district. It flows into Gulf of Khambat, as you can see in this diagram also. Okay, primarily we know that this river will be a rain-fed river because it will not be a perennial river. It is not coming from Himalayas, right? And in Vadodara, it is home to a large population of mugger. So this we are going to discuss. And river is highly polluted. So this was about the river, key facts about the Vishwamitra River. Now we have to talk in detail about the mugger. So when we talk about crocodiles, India is home to 3 crocodile species. One is mugger. So those who speak Hindi might be knowing that sometimes we call crocodile as mugger much. Okay, so that mugger much is one of the species of crocodile, that is mugger. There are other crocodile species also. For example, we have ghadial. So you must have heard about ghadial also. So ghadial is other crocodile species. There is a difference between magarmach and ghadial. There is a difference between magar, crocodile, and then the third species which India is having is the saltwater crocodile. Okay, so we shall be discussing about all these 3 species. First, we shall be discussing about the mugger. So the IUCN status of the mugger. This is the image of mugger. Okay, so here the IUCN status is vulnerable. If you see this particular face of this species, you will see that this nose, which is known as snout, so the snout is relatively broad. Okay, when we compare this with ghadial, see here, the snout of ghadial is very long and narrow, so it is elongated. But when we are talking about mugger, it is relatively broad snouted face. This is a long and narrow face. Okay, so this is a broad snouted nose. And these crocodiles, that is muggers, are also known as marsh crocodiles. When we have to talk about their habitat, they are mainly found in the fresh water, that is rivers, but they are also found in the estuaries and the marshes. Okay, so primarily they are in fresh water, but sometimes they are found in the estuaries also, which is relatively a brackish water. If we have to talk about their dietary choices, so it is varied. So they have a diverse preying habits, and they can have a diversity of food. That is why they are catholic in their dietary choices. They dig burrows or holes for nesting purposes. These muggers have very strong legs. Here you can see the legs are very thick, very broad, and very wide. So their legs are very strong, and their legs are strong because of this only they can climb up to the steeper slopes also. So let's say if you are finding these muggers in the river banks, okay, and if it is chasing you, so it might happen that you will think that if you go to the elevated platform, they will not reach, but they can reach because they have strong legs. This is not true in case of ghadials. So if in case of conflict with ghadials naturally are shy animals. Okay. But still, if there is a conflict and if you able to manage to reach to the elevated platform, there are chances that you will be saved. So they have very strong legs. They bask mainly on the river banks, choosing steeper slopes and elevated platforms. Okay. So this is mugger. When we talk about the ghadials, as we have discussed, that their nose is elongated, narrow. They are critically endangered. Another important difference. Ghadials are endemic to the Indian subcontinent, and ghadials are prominently found in the fast moving rivers. So they are more aquatic in sense. Okay. Okay, so these muggers can travel on the land also. So they are also living in rivers, but they can go to the flood plains. You can find them in the flood plains. They have strong legs, so they can climb also. They can move up these steep slopes also. But these ghadials are mainly in rivers. They also go to river banks. But when they will be going river banks, because they are having soft legs, uh, uh, have I written it? Okay, yeah, because they are having soft legs, so they will be only restricted to the mid river or the sand islands on the low height platforms, and they can only crawl, they cannot run. Okay, so their movement is slow, but they are mainly in the fast moving rivers. Chambal being the predominant river where you can find gharials, the Chambal basin and the nearby rivers also, but Chambal is the most important river. They are the longest living crocodile species. They have long, narrow snouts. They predominantly are a fish eater. Now, this is again a difference. When we were talking about muggers, there we discussed that they have Catholic dietary habits, that they can the diet is very diverse when it comes to muggers. But when it comes to the diets of ghadias, it is narrow. They are not having much choices. So they are predominantly fish eater. This you can also guess because they are primarily living in fast flowing rivers. So if they are in rivers, so they will eat fish. If some species is in river and is also coming to the land, so obviously it will have a diversity, right? And they are shy natured. So there are huge chances that if there is a conflict with ghadials, the ghadials will run. So they are very sensitive to any disturbance, and if they find any kind of disturbance, they take it as a threat and they just run and they just enter into the water body. Okay, so they are shy natured. So these are the differences between mugger and ghadial. Okay, the last one is the saltwater crocodile. Okay, so this is the image of saltwater crocodile. Saltwater crocodile is the largest of all the crocodiles. The IUCN status is least concerned. So the main threat of from the crocodiles in general is because of these saltwater crocodiles. They are very large, and they are the ones who are known as man eaters. They drag their prey into the river, they kill them, and they can swallow them. Not just the humans, but large animals also. Okay, so the real threat which we have listened from our childhood related to crocodiles are because of these saltwater crocodiles. Okay, so that is why they are known as the man eaters. They are the largest crocodile species. They are the largest reptiles in the world. They are also known as estuarine crocodiles. So muggers were known as marsh crocodiles. Saltwater crocodiles are known as estuarine crocodiles. And they are known to live in a very important areas like Bhitarkanika, Sundarbans and Andaman Nicobar. Now this is again to be clearly understood. When we talk about muggers and gharials, muggers are also found in rivers, gharials are also found in rivers, right? So generally muggers and gharials are known as freshwater species. This is a saltwater crocodile. So they will be found in the salty water. But when we are saying this, by this we mean predominantly. It is not the case that they cannot be found in the fresh water. They can be found in fresh water. They can be found in the salty water also. But predominance we are talking about. Okay, so that is why they are known to habitat the Bhitarkaniga Sundarbans, where the sea water and the fresh water is mixing and brackish water is formed, hence the name saltwater crocodiles. And they have the ambush strategy. They wait in the river, so they are having the nose. All the crocodile species have nose on the top surface of their the breathing nose on the top surface of their face, so that they can lie under the water, just keeping this nose outside the water to breathe, and rest of the body will be within the water. You will not be able to see it. And that is the ambush strategy which is followed by the saltwater crocodile. It will wait for you to come, go near them, and then they will swallow you, because they are the man eater. Okay, so these are the three crocodile species which are found in India. Next, moving to the next topic, another important species which was in news was rare Eurasian otters, and they were seen in the Kashmir Valley in Gurez area. Okay, so again, as we have discussed that in today's session, most of the topics are prelims oriented, and that too from the facts, that is the species as well as the important places in news, which we discussed wetlands, and then we discussed the species crocodiles. Now another species is rare Eurasian otter. So again, looking at some of the key facts related to the rare Eurasian otter. Okay, if we have to talk about the geographical range of this Eurasian otter, in India, they are confirmed in the Himalayas, in central India, Western Ghats, Odisha, Europe, Asia, North Africa. So that means they have a wide distribution. Therefore, they are not critically endangered. They are not endangered. Okay, they are not vulnerable. You have to tell me that what is their IUCN status in the comment box. Okay, so they are found in these areas. If we talk about their habitat, again, if there is a species which is found over a large geographical area, so can I say that they do not require a very special type of habitat? So their habitat will also be diverse. That is the reason that why these species are found across Himalayas, across central India, across Western Ghats, across Europe, across Central Asia. Are you getting it? So they have very diverse habitats, from frigid rivers in the Trans Himalayas to forested regions of Central Highlands, Western Ghats, coastal lagoons, Chilika, freshwater, brackish water ecosystems. In all types of habitats, you can find these otters. Okay, so if you closely look at their the physiology, so they have some unique properties which help them to adapt to such large and diverse ecosystem. So what is the adaptability mechanism? So here, first of all, you can see that there are some layers of dense furs, brown color fur is there on their body. This fur is responsible for trapping or providing an insulation to them in the context, in the wake of cold waves. So if they are found in frigid areas, so there this fur protects them from the intense cold outside. This fur is able to trap the body heat also. So this fur basically keeps them warm. They also have very high metabolism. So this metabolism helps them to digest also, okay, in the extreme harsh weather systems. Then you can see that this tail is very thick of this species. Okay, so they have a very muscular tail. This muscular tail basically help them to maintain the balance, because their body has a huge weight. So to maintain the balance of that weight in river, in water, while swimming, they use this thick tail. So with the help of tail, they try to balance their body and they navigate in the waters. Okay, next, when we talk about, you see the face, so here they have whiskers. These whiskers are basically help them to locate the prey in the low light conditions. So they can locate their prey with the help of their whiskers. Their whiskers vibrate. Okay, they have a huge smelling sense also, so they can smell the presence of their prey also. And then the feet, if you see, so they have fully developed matured webbed feet. Okay, so this webbed feet help them in swimming. So they have a webbed feet, they have a very thick tail. Both these features help them to swim. They have whiskers to locate their prey, and they have fur to adapt in the cold harsh weather conditions, right? If we have to talk about the society, so they are largely solitary and elusive. So you will not see otters in large groups and large social gatherings. So because they are solitary and they are elusive in nature. Primarily, their prey is fish, crustaceans, amphibians, reptile, birds. Okay, territory. The sense of territory of these otters is very large. So they are highly territorial in nature. The territory of the male otters are larger than the territory of the female otters. Okay, so that means the males have larger territories and males can have overlapping territories with multiple females. Fine. If we talk about the home base, so they build dens, they are called holds, an important word. So these holds are basically the den of the otter. So here you can see the picture. They are living in a hole, they are burrowing it, they are living in dens. These dens are known as hold on dry ground and usually with the river banks with vegetation. Okay. Threats we all know: hunting, habitat loss, fragmentation, conflict with the pond owners. All these are the general threats. If we have to talk about communication, they have a mix of whistles and high pitched calls. They are sent from the musk glands present at the base of the tail, is important form of communication, and they can be quite vocal, especially with pups. So they are vocal, that's the thing. Now we have to do such type of things also, at least for those species which are coming in newspaper, because we know that for last 3 to 4 years UPSC is asking the question and they are going into so much detail of those species. Again, I will advise that not for every species you have to do it separately, but at least the species which we are discussing in these classes, so we can do those species in detail, right? Baki, leave it to the luck if the question comes from otters or if the question comes from that species for which you have not read properly, right? So you don't have to read about every species in so much detail. This is a clear warning from my side, otherwise cost benefit ratios will not be very good, will not be in your favor. Okay, now moving towards the last topic, that is the marine heat waves. Now this topic was in news in the context that there was a study which have concluded that climate change is increasing the incidences of marine heat waves. We all know that climate change is not only increasing the intensity of marine heat waves, in general also they are increasing the weather extremities. So whether it is tropical cyclones, or they are cold waves, or there are polar vortex weakening, or there are marine heat waves, or they are in general territorial land heat waves. So all the weather extremities are increasing, right? So in this very sense we should be aware that what do we mean by such concepts, what are exactly marine heat waves. Okay, so if you see this particular chart, marine heat waves, first try to understand that marine heat waves is not a advectional movement of water, the water with high temperature within the ocean. No. So let's say if there is ocean, let's say if this is an ocean, so in this ocean there will be few patches. Let's say this is one patch, this is second patch, this is next patch. So there will be few patches which will be having a higher temperature compared to the average temperature of the oceans. Okay, in these areas are known to have marine heat waves. So if in a particular area of ocean, if the temperature has increased by around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius than their average temperature, and that too for around 4 to 5 days continuously, we will say that that particular section of ocean is experiencing marine heat waves. Is this clear? Or alternatively, we can say that the marine heat waves are known to occur when the temperature increase of that particular area in the oceans crosses the 90th percentile, that is the average value. So, if the 90th percentile of the average value, this mark is breached, then this, you can see the red area, this area basically shows this is the line of temperature. Okay, so let's say this is the temperature line, 29 to 30 degrees Celsius somewhat, but now the temperature increase has breached this 29-30 degrees Celsius average value, that is 90th percentile. This has been breached. This was the average temperature. Okay. Then this average temperature was increased. So just a slight increase than the average temperature, we cannot call them as marine heat waves. That's why we said 3 to 4 degrees Celsius has to be more. Or we can say that the increase has to be more than 90th percentile of this average value. Then we will call it as a marine heat waves. This is defined by IMD. Okay. So this is the thing. The question is that why are we saying that climate change is increasing the intensity of the marine heat waves? That why marine heat waves are increasing so much? Okay. So for this to understand, we should know a thing that we should understand that marine heat waves. So let's discuss this with the help of a small diagram. Let's say this is a vertical cross section. We'll come to this diagram, we'll come to this image later on. First try to understand this. This will be a simplistic explanation of this thing. Okay. So let's say this is a vertical cross section of the ocean. So here we know that this particular layer, then this is a second layer and this is a third layer. So here there is a presence of sunlight. This is a thermocline layer, we know this, and this is the bottom layer where the water is generally cooled. So if I draw a thermocline, it is somewhat like this. This we know from the, so this, for example, here you have temperature of 26 degrees Celsius. Here you are at temperature 0 degrees Celsius. In the topmost layer, we all know this is the basics of oceanography. In the topmost layer, the temperature of the topmost layer is highest because the sunlight is able to penetrate the topmost layer just up to 200 to 500 meters of depth. Okay. But then after that, there is a sharp decline of temperature. This layer is known as thermocline. Okay. So thermocline, basically therm is temperature and cline is gradient. So this second layer is telling you about the falling temperature, that is the temperature gradient. There is a very steep fall in temperature. And then there is a third layer. Here also the temperature is constant. In the first layer, in the third layer, temperature is constant. Now we also know that temperature and density has some relationship, right? Fine. So let's say if we are saying that this is the warmest layer and this is the coldest layer, we can also say that the density of this will be low. The density is low. Here, the density is high. Fine. Now, if I have to say that if I want that this water from the top layer and the bottom layer do mix, so what do you think? The density difference between the top layer and bottom layer should be higher or it should be lower? What do you think that which type of fluid will mix? If you are having two fluids having similar densities or having stark variation in densities? So obviously the fluid having similar density will easily mix, right? And if you are having two fluids, two liquids having variation, huge variation in density, they will not mix. That is the reason that this warm water, because their density is very low, this warm water is able to move freely. This warm water floats over the cold, denser water. This we know in the form of ocean currents. Okay. So this warm water float over the cold water. Why? Because the density is very less. Clear? So that means if we are able to lower down the density of this warm water, or if we are able to increase the density of the warm water, that means making the density come closer to the cold dense water, then there will be a better mixing. And opposite will lead to relatively lower mixing. I hope this is clear to you. The bottom line is that if the densities are same, better mixing can take place. Now, what is happening? Because of the global warming and climate change, this topmost layer, this warm layer, this hot layer of water is becoming warmer, is becoming hotter, right? Because all the excessive greenhouse gases which are released into the atmosphere by us is being soaked by, is being absorbed back by these oceans, right? The global warming is taking place. So the maximum impact is felt by the topmost layer of the oceans. So that means this topmost layer is becoming warmer and warmer and warmer. That means the density is going down and down and down. That means the density difference between the top layer and cold layer is relatively increasing. So if density difference is increasing, so can I say that there will be clear cut layers in the ocean? So there will be one layer having a very low density, there is second layer having a very high density if we are comparing just these two layers. So can I say that because of the climate change, global warming and all those activities, the stratification of the oceans are increasing? This stratification is increasing, that is the layers are being formed. If the layers are being formed, if the stratification is increasing, so that means the water mixing will go down because density difference has increased. So there will not be the clear mixing of the water in the topmost layer and the bottom layer. If there is no mixing of water in the vertical section, that means the nutrients are not coming up, right? Because the underlying water takes up the nutrients with them to the surface. But now if there is no mixing, nutrients are not coming up. And because there is no mixing, so whatever heat was accumulated in this topmost layer is not able to go down. So that heat is continuously accumulated. So this lack of water mixing in the vertical section basically lead to what? It will lead to further warming up of the topmost layer, further reducing density, and this will become a positive feedback, never ending feedback. It will go on and go on and go on, right? So that is why, if we are able to understand that because this topmost layer will be further heated, will be further warmed up, so that explains that how climate change is leading to marine heat waves in some areas because of this stratification. Now come to this diagram. What does this diagram tell you? This diagram basically tells you that when there is a sunlight heating, okay, and because of the all the anthropogenic activities, what is happening, that this top layer, that is the one which is getting heated, basically is a new thinner mixed layer. This layer is getting thin and thin and thin because it is getting continuously warmed up by the sun. So this thinning of layer, and previously this was a thick mixed layer. Previously this was a thick mixed layer, but now the mixing has reduced, less mixing between the surface and the cooler waters, the point which we were discussing over here. Now because this mixing has been reduced and you have the clear cut layers, clear cut stratification is there, which will lead to continuous warming up of this section of the ocean, and this is known as the marine heat waves, right? Is this clear to all of you that this is marine heat waves? This marine heat waves will be further intensified under the heat dome effect. So let's say if we imagine that this is the one process through which the oceans are getting extremely heated up, there is another process also. Let us imagine, because of some reason, if you have some high pressure developed over this ocean surface. So this was the ocean surface, and in the atmosphere, in the upper layers, you are having the high pressure. So this high pressure will lead to what? This high pressure will lead to sinking of the air, right? So if, let's say, if this is the high pressure and this is the ocean surface, in the atmosphere we have the high pressure, this will lead to what? This will lead to sinking down of the wind. This water is becoming warmed up, so from here the water is trying to go the air is trying to go up because the air is warmed, lighter air. But from the above, the wind is descending, which is not allowing this upward motion of air. And ultimately what will happen, this descending wind, if you are aware about the adiabatic changes, this descending wind will increase the temperature. It will increase the temperature of the wind, because when the winds will come down, they will increase the temperature with adiabatic changes. Remember that why Chinook winds are called as snow eaters, because when the winds come down the slope, they increase the temperature, and that heated wind basically melt down the snow. So when the winds come down with the adiabatic lapse rate, they increase the temperature, right? So now what is happening? This surface of the ocean was warmed up because of the processes which we discussed here, because of the climate change, stratification, all those things. This is further warmed up, intensified. Why? Because of the presence of the high pressure in the upper area, which is known as the heat dome effect. So sometimes when this coincides with the already existing warm patches, so the intensity of the marine heat waves increase. Clear? This diagram is clear. Then this picture basically will show you the incidences of the marine heat waves which have been recognized in different parts of the world. Okay, so this can also help you to understand the impacts. For example, if the marine heat waves are increasing in this particular area, so can I say that here the coral bleaching will take place, right? Because here you are having Great Barrier Reef. If marine heat waves are increasing, so let's say in this Bay of Bengal region, marine heat waves means temperature is increasing. So can I say that the higher temperature can invite large number of tropical cyclones? True. If marine heat waves are increasing, that means the changes in the ocean temperature is taking place. Then can I say that the motion of the oceanic currents will also be impacted? True. There will be impact on the health of the people who are living in the coastal areas, right? There will be impact on the economic activities. If we are saying that this east coast of US is known to have best fishing industries, but now the temperature is changing, so obviously the fishes will die in the because of the marine heat waves. So there will be impact on the fishing industry, there will be impact on aquaculture, there will be impact on agriculture and all the aspects. So that is the reason that marine heat waves is impacting not only the ecology, but also it is increasing the weather extremities, it is inviting disasters, it is impacting economy, society, and it is impacting the human health. Okay, so this was the topic in relation to the marine heat wave. What are marine heat waves? What are its causes? How climate change is impacting it? What are its consequences? Okay, now moving towards the practice questions. So we have discussed these topics. Just try to attempt these questions on your own. They are pretty simple questions. We have just discussed these species. Okay, so just try to attempt them. Yeah. Yes. So first question is in relation to the ghadial. You can pause the screen, try to attempt. Second is in saltwater crocodile, and third is Eurasian otter. And now just match how many of you have marked all the three questions correct. So these are the answers for these questions. Okay. So yeah, that is all from my side. It was a brief session because less number of topics were there and mainly all the topics were factual. Okay, thank you everyone. All the very best and study hard.